Good morning, my friends. How are you? Cold, I'm sure, right? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio, here to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. I will tell you who's coming up on the show here shortly. But first, let me just tell you, I'm glad that you're along with me. I do appreciate it. John Callison, always with us whenever he can be. John is the president of the CMU Bass Fishing Club. Cliff, a regular listener as well, or a viewer. Randy, nice to have you along with us on this edition of Behind the Mic. I'm here behind two microphones. Mike checking in from Arizona. Mike will be at our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner, as will this man right here, the Bear Whisperer, Johnny Bowler. Johnny is giving us a bear and or whitetail hunt to auction off for the event. Johnny, we appreciate that. Bernie, good morning. How are you? Davina, there's Davina right there. Good morning, Ed. Ed Bolanowski will be with us. He'll also be with us in Ohio, hunting with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. Jim has his tickets for the dinner. Excellent. Good morning, Mike. How are you? Uncle Johnny. Uncle Johnny will be with us as well. He will be sitting at our table that evening, John. Really looking forward to having you and your lovely bride there. I think you're going to like the event a lot. Tim, good morning. Hey, Vance. Vance will also be there. I just found out Chad will be there. Hey, Chad threw me off there. Good morning, Chad. How are you? Nice to have you with us, Chad. Vance, looking forward to having you there. You're going to enjoy the event. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Good morning, Gene. How are you? Chad, how are things over at Yider? I was in the office there last week. Bill is just donating. He's not coming. Bill says he doesn't like to get too close to anything associated with a church. Not our church, any church in general. He says that in jest because you know Bill, he's a good guy. Hello, Larry. How are you? Matt, how are things down on Lake Erie? You guys still fishing open water? What does that mean? I don't know what that means, Johnny. Bruce, good morning. How are you? Yeah, we're auctioning off a hunt. Oh, listen to this. John has to apologize. He might be with company tonight. Stealing a line from Ross Elliott. Bernie says the 10 degrees feels a lot better than the minus negative 11 I had yesterday morning. Was it that cold yesterday morning, Bernie? Whew. I just realized my screen is cockeyed here. I shouldn't do it. Avery, don't touch it when you're out. Oh, I did it and pulled it off. He won't be chasing turkeys yet. Waiting for inland ice to return. Is the open water trolling now done, Matt? And Matt, I never know. Do I call you Matt or Matthew? And I apologize. I should know the answer to this. I apologize, Matt. Vancy. I don't know what Vancy means, Johnny. Help me out. Johnny's probably sitting in a snowplow right now. He's driving down the road trying to text and watch this while he's running a truck. So if you see a big truck coming down towards you on a snowplow in the central UP, it might be Johnny. So you might want to keep your eyes open. Here's somebody I do not recognize. Fishing with the Griffins. Nice to have you along with us. Appreciate you joining us on this edition of Behind the Mic. Tommy, good morning. How are you? Again, my name is Mike Avery. I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio, actually the studios of WSGW, here to record this week's show. Coming up, Gary Morgan of Wild Game Dynasty will be joining me. Gary, by the way, is donating a bear hunt for our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner. We've got some great things to auction off, including an African safari, if that's something you're interested in. Matt, appreciate that. Matt, thank you for letting me know. There may be open water to troll, just the salt on your boat trailer. I gotcha. Davina, I'll get to that in a minute. Johnny says, oh my gosh, he calls you Mikey. You're going to call him Vancy. But Vancy's not on the show this week. I call him Lancelot. He calls me Mikey, so I call him Lancy or Lancelot. Thank you, Johnny. You got to realize it's my brain doesn't work as well as yours because I'm older than you. David, good morning. Hello, Tim. How are you? Appreciate the nice comments there. Good morning, Paul. Maybe you should just stay out of Andy's. Maybe I should stay out of Andy's. Not that I have any problem with Andy's. I just know what's going to happen. Angela, good morning. How are you? Are you and Gus going to make it over to our Trinity dinner? Johnny, one of my favorite people. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, again, I'm here in the studio to record this week's show. Gary Morgan of Wild Game Dynasty wants to talk about bobcat hunting. We'll also mention the fact that he's donating a bear hunt along with Johnny Bowler. We've got 2 bear hunts that we're auctioning off this year for the Wild Game dinner. Excellent, Angie. I appreciate that. And then Michigan's meteorologist, Mark Torregrossa, wraps up the first hour. I want to ask him, how long are these cold temps going to continue? Good morning, Mark. How are things over on YouTube? Next bear season, yeah, not this bear season, a year from now. Yep. Then Jason Michalski joins us. Hello, Kevin. How are you? Jason is with the Michigan Dark House Anglers Association. There's a picture of him holding a great big pike he speared on the Facebook page right now. Then Seth Herbst from the Michigan DNR talking about a new app that outlines where all the master angler fish are caught here in Michigan. This week's Ask Avery segment, there's Lancey right there, Sir Lancelot. Good morning, my friend. Right back at you, Lance. This week's Ask Avery segment deals with what do you need to get across the border for a springtime bear hunt? It's pretty easy again now these days. I don't know. Does anybody know? I don't think you, and I should have checked on this. I don't think you have to fill out the app anymore, do you? And prove that somebody help me out here. Somebody, Tim Binns, would you look this up for me, please? Do you still have to show a negative COVID test to get into Canada, or did they drop that? Tim, please check on that. I should have done that. I didn't. Tim Binns helped me out. And then Mark Martin joins me in hour number 3 of this week's show, along with Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Miner. It is Hump Day. Dan, good morning. How are you? John, good morning. How are you? Lance, I really like your new website. You guys did a great job. Looks nice. Very nice. Pat Johnson just entered this. Oh, Pat has breaking news. Pat, what's the breaking news?
Tom Brady has retired.
Tom Brady's retired. Again.
Maybe for real.
Maybe for real this time, he says. Kirk is in the Rockies, Miss spearing pike in Michigan. Well, the Rockies are a good place to live, too. Davina says, did everybody get their turkey apps in? Or did you forget? If you did forget, it's okay because there are lots of tags you can still get over the counter. That's what I get, ZZ, Southern Michigan Private Land Tag. Tim Binns, his fingers are rapidly going over the keyboard. What I don't know, and I want to know before I get to the show, is I don't think you still have to show a negative COVID test to get into Ontario anymore. I think they've dropped that, but Tim Binns is researching it now.
Just make sure.
No changes. Okay, so as Tim is researching that, let's talk about a few other things. The weather, a big topic of discussion right now. It's cold. Those of you who like ice are very happy. Those of you who like snow are very happy. You notice I didn't necessarily include myself in that group because did I see the DNR came out with another round of habitat grants? I did, Ed, but I also saw that the DNR came out talking about some FAQs, some frequently asked questions. Regarding the consent decree negotiations. New to your show, glad to be here. Content creator from the Thumb. I was fish in Santa during the holidays, spreading the true meaning of Christmas. Excellent. Well, fishing with the Griffins, nice to have you along with us. I appreciate that. Craig Plowman, how you doing this morning, big guy? Appreciate your donation of the African safari. Davina says it's illegal to bait for turkeys in Michigan, but it's okay to plant food plots for them. Yep, that's very true. And you can also hunt under an apple tree, but you can't spread any corn out there. Tim says he doesn't see it in the requirements. So, Tim, I'm going to quote you. This week's Ask Avery segment, I'm going to walk through the rest of it. Then I'm going to say, according to expert researcher Tim Binns, he now says you no longer need to provide a negative COVID test to get into Canada. And if that's wrong, Tim, it's on your shoulders because I didn't prepare as I should, because I didn't research as I should. And I reached out to you and you bailed me out. I'm putting it on your shoulders now. Last time you helped me out, isn't it, Tim? Good morning, Patrick. How are you? Appreciate you being along with us on this edition of Behind the Mic. I also do a Wednesday night live every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. 2 weeks from tonight, Amy Trotter of MUCC will be joining me. We will talk about the consent decree. We will talk about the governor's State of the State address, where she did not. I think so too, Ed. I think so too. Yep, that's my recollection as well. She didn't talk about fish or wildlife or conservation issues, but she did talk about gun issues. That's your governor at work. Thank you for reelecting her. I told you Toro Grosso is going to be on the show. I'm going to ask him how long this cold is going to continue. He's the guy who told me 2 months ago it was going to be a weather roller coaster. I think he nailed it this time. Turkey applications. Yes, I do believe you can still apply today. I think it goes through February 1st. Speaking of turkey season, I think there's a new crossbow in my future. I do want expert. Yeah, Tim, you are a bona fide expert. I have given you that title. Expert researcher, expert. What else are you an expert at? Expert shooter, expert online stuff, and an expert chicken farmer. Hey, good morning, Corey. How are you? I see your eggs are in high demand right now, Tim. I don't doubt that. Somebody posted a picture yesterday of eggs for $6.66 a dozen. They called them Satan's chickens. Yeah, shows with Amy are good ones. Tim Binns, there's his link right there. See, I knew. You do not need to supply a negative COVID test to get into Canada. That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. You are right, Ed, and you are right, Tim. They did drop that, which allowed people who were unvaccinated to get into Canada. Yes. More on the crossbow, Johnny says. I love my dart and crossbow. I really do. I think it's time for an upgrade. Darton is coming out with a new crossbow that I'm very, very interested to see, but I don't think it's going to be out by the time the springtime turkey season is here. And I will follow that springtime turkey hunt up almost immediately with a spring bear hunt in Ontario. So I'd like to have a new bow by then. If not the new dart and crossbow, I'm also looking at a Raven and I'm looking at a 10-point because they're both made in this country, as is Darton, which is made right here in Michigan. I'd prefer to go with Darton, but I want to see the new bow, and I don't know if it'll be out in time. Good morning, Jerry. How are you? Appreciate you being with us. Corey said he had to turn on the lights so his hens would start laying again due to the prices in the stores. How does that work, Corey? Help me understand that. I grew up on a farm, but we never had chickens. So apparently the amount of light they get somehow makes them think it's daytime or what, and they start to lay. I don't know, Corey. Tell me more about that. I've always thought it'd be cool to have chickens. I don't think I can have them in the city where I live, but I'd like to have some. The 500, Johnny says, what I'm looking for in a crossbow is one that has a built-in crank, but you can also let it back off. You need heat lamps. Hey, Josh, how are you? Heat lamps, Davina says, and 14 hours of light. Craig says, Canada CA travel says no COVID test required. Okay. So I have a lot of people helping me out here this morning, and I do appreciate it. And I want a little bit longer crossbow. I don't want a reverse draw. I want a standard draw, but I want one a little bit longer. I don't want one of those little short, tight, compact ones. Something a little bit longer to match the size of my frame. Scott Hand, our first Walleye for Warrior meeting Monday. Will be here before you know it. Scott, I wish I could help you out this year, but I'm going to be bear hunting in Ontario. Ed says the 10 points are good. The 10 point is a great one. My son James has one. I like it a lot. John says DNR made a correction. Yes, it looks like you can go through today. Thank you. Good morning, John Sullivan at Lure Lipstick, lurelipstick.com. Davina says she loves her Horton. Lancey says, great topic for conversation. Walleye spawning timing is much more dependent on time of day than water temperature. Lots to unpack in that topic. That's for sure. Time of day. That's also the rut. The rut is also mandated more by length of daylight and somewhat moon phase than it is anything else. Corey says he's looking at the 10-point flatline 460 with a Burris Oracle X. Now that would be That would be a heck of a rig. Johnny has the Raven R20, which is they're great bows. I have been advised by the people at Jay's. They say don't necessarily go for the brand new or high end 10-point or Raven. Maybe go for something a little bit lower in the product lineup. And that makes sense to me. That makes sense. Davina says Horton is made by 10-point. I didn't know that. I thought I didn't know that. I thought Wicked Ridge was also made by 10-point. Mike says the Barnett. I got to be honest with you, Mike. I think I'm going to stay away from the Barnetts. Nothing against them, but I think if I can't get the new dart and crossbow in time, I think it'll be either a 10-point or a Raven. And I know I'm going to pay the long dollar for that. I know it's not going to come cheap, but I think I want to upgrade a little bit. Jerry checking in from Tupper Lake in New York. Davina said Wicked Ridge and Horton are made by 10-point. Everybody agrees with me. Wicked Ridge is made by 10-point. 20 has been around the longest of the Ravens. Yeah, that was R20 was an early one, wasn't it, Johnny? So what else? I got my truck is done. My ZR2 from Garber Chevy is done. I went to Sign Image in Saginaw to get the graphics. I went to Suspension Max in Bay City to get the front end lifted. And I went to Mike Hampton of Mike's Tire Sales. And he put on a set of 35-inch Falcon Wild Peaks. That's about my fourth set of those tires. I like them a lot. And those 35s look nice. They do rub a little bit at full lock, but yeah, it is what it is, right? Corey Hunts from a Saddle. You don't want a long crossbow or a wide one, that's for sure. Velocity Outdoors makes Ravens and Centerpoint. Tom Beecher, a friend of mine who used to be pretty much the head guy at Vanguard, back when Vanguard was actually a hunting company. They're not really anymore, in my opinion. And I think, well, it coincided with Tom leaving. I don't know the story behind the story, but I'll leave it at that. Yeah, and he's now over. I say that because he's now over at Velocity Outdoors. Tom made the move over to Velocity Outdoors. Jerry checking in from Algonac. Matt says he loves saddle hunting, started last season light and agile. Well, I think you hit it on the nose right there, Matt. You have to be light and agile to hunt out of a saddle. I don't think it's for a guy like me, and probably not for my friend Ross Elliott, Ross, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag, but you did break my heart with the news you gave me last week. Jim makes a good point. He says, you're better off with a Canadian-made Excalibur. No need for a pro shop. Easy to change the string if needed. Because the Excalibur is a recurve style crossbow. And you're right, Jim. They've been around forever. They're very well respected. And they used to have a commercial out there, somebody running over their Excalibur with a truck, a pickup, and not hurting it at all. Yep. All right, Bernie, I'll see you tonight. Johnny, we'll see you tonight. Johnny's got to go plow. Saddle hunting's a game changer. I don't doubt it. Let's not forget to give credit to the guy. Darton is made in Hale, Davina. Let's not forget to give credit to the guy who pioneered saddle hunting, John Eberhart. And John is, he's not a humble guy, and he will be and I don't blame him. He will be the first to remind you that, are those lights up all the way? You don't dare to touch them, do you?
No, they've been fixed.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this light's on too.
Yeah, he put a new bulb in.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
We have light. All of them. This is wonderful. Thank you. Cousins Raven. That's why I've been advised to stay away from the highest end Ravens and the highest end 10 points, maybe even 2. John Eberhart's, he's from south of Clare. Anyway, John is the guy who pioneered saddle hunting. Let nobody forget that. John Eberhart pioneered saddle hunting. A lot of people have jumped on that bandwagon now and will claim to be veteran saddle hunting experts. If you want to talk saddle hunting, your guy is John Eberhart. And guess what? John is on the show next week. I agree, Jim. Not only difficult, I think it would be just about impossible, I would think. Yeah, a lot of his bucks are jade. Don't look into the light. We have more light in here than I'm used to, Tim, and it's nice. Spent a lot of time Anderson sling back in the 80s. No kidding, Ed. You're an old timer too, but we knew that, didn't we, Ed? What else? Our Trinity dinner's coming up. We have a few tickets left. Not many. Not many. There is a post on my Facebook page. You can go there to call the number 662-4891, I believe, or you can scan the QR code and just get them online. That event is Saturday, March 4th at the Great Hall in Midland. We have some wonderful, very cool prizes, auction items, raffle items, door prizes, yada, 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 yada. Oh, I'll tell you something that made me feel old the other day. I got a Facebook message from a guy, and he said, hey, I don't know if you remember me or not. I did remember him. He said, I was a student of yours at Delta College. I used to teach broadcasting part-time at a local community college here in the area called Delta College. This guy was one of my students at Delta. Well, he was letting me know that he's now retired. When one of your students in college has now retired, you know you are old. I'm even older than Charlie Rood. Barely.
But you're better looking.
I have a face for radio, I've been told.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Where did that happen? Where did that go? My email address, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. My website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I've just revamped the YouTube channel. YouTube did like Facebook. They make arbitrary changes that seem to have no real purpose, but they screw up the content creators. So I had to revise things a little bit. All right. In about 10 seconds, I am going to start the radio show. I will no longer be able to directly answer your questions as I am doing 3, 2, 1, blast off. Okay. So I'm going to change my focus from talking directly to you to talking to my radio audience. And I'll switch from this social media microphone. You'll still be able to hear me to my official broadcast microphone. So again, if you ask me a question here in the next 12 minutes, I won't be able to immediately respond. However, I will be back here tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live on just about all of my social media outlets, except for Instagram. Don't get me started. Too much coffee this morning. I now have rot gut. Thought you'd want to know that. All right, my friends, have a good day. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us once again as we spend the next 3 hours talking about the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues, even some wild game cooking. This is something I've been doing for a long, long time. I'm blessed to be able to do it. I'm blessed that you're hearing my voice right now, and I do certainly appreciate it as we record the first show of the new month. It's now February. Now, I don't know if the groundhog saw his shadow, because we're recording just before the groundhog peeked his little squirrely rodent head out. So I don't know. But the weather is certainly in our news and thoughts right now, isn't it? Boy, it was only, a week and a half ago, we were talking about how warm it was and how there's no snow. Well, now things have changed, and Mother Nature is deciding to display her power once again. We got quite a bit of snow, at least in my neck of the woods. We got the biggest snow I've seen in, a couple of years at least. And it's been cold, which is great news for those of you who like ice and who like the cold. I was thinking, though, it reminded me as I'm out shoveling the driveway and actually have to put some work into it. And it was pretty cold. I thought, man, this kind of reminds me of the old days. there is no doubt, in my opinion, a non-scientific opinion, that we don't get winters like we used to. Now, you might say, well, yeah, Avery, it's because you grew up on the west side of the state over there in the snow belt. Yeah, we used to get some real storms back then, blizzards that would shut things down for a long time. No, it's not that I'm no longer living on the west side of the state. When I compare winters now in the part of the state where I've lived for the past, I don't know, 40 years, we just don't get winters like we used to. Now, oh, yeah, it's global warming. I don't know what it is. I don't pretend to know. All I know is we don't get winters like we used to. And I was reminded of that here recently with the snow and the cold. Oh, did you? I say it is February now, right? Did you get your turkey application in? Did you forget about it? Or did you remember that February 1st was the deadline? Well, even if you missed it, you're going to be okay. Unless, of course, you happen to want one of the real highly coveted limited seasons. I don't worry about those anymore because I hunt in the southern part of the state. I can get Hunt ZZ. They let out 50,000 tags every year. And the only year they sold out was 2020 during COVID. So you're just about guaranteed you're going to get a ZZ tag if you can hunt in that part of the state. Southern Michigan, private land only, and it runs about 6 weeks. It starts like the third weekend in April. I haven't looked at the exact dates this year, and goes right on through the mosquito season, the month of May. So if you live in that part of the state, or if you have access to private land in southern Michigan, that is a really good season to have. It goes on through, well, it gives you plenty of chances to play cat and mouse with birds, which is what I've been doing the last couple of years. I do think that there might be a new crossbow in my future for this upcoming turkey season. And then I'll follow that up almost immediately with a springtime bear hunt in Ontario. A couple of years ago, I put down the recurve and I went back to a crossbow. And I will tell you right now that hunting with a recurve was the most challenging and rewarding hunting I have ever done. I have much respect for people who use traditional archery tackle, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication. I almost said skill. It takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication to shoot enough and to practice enough to become proficient enough to have confidence to let an arrow fly at a critter. And when I was doing it, I enjoyed it. I shot a lot. I took a turkey with a recurve. I took a bear with a recurve. Never taken a deer with a recurve. But I did enjoy it. But I got to the point where I just wasn't shooting enough to have that confidence. And I think we as ethical hunters need to have confidence that we can make a quick, clean, humane killing shot on an animal. And I lost that confidence. So I thought, well, am I going to pick up a compound again, which I hadn't shot for a lot of years, or just jump back to a crossbow? I said, I'm going to jump back to a crossbow. So I started hunting with a Darton crossbow, the 100, the Toxin 100. Love that bow, but I think it's time to do a little bit of an upgrade. Now, I don't think I'm speaking out of school. I think the word is out that Darton is coming out with a new crossbow, but I don't think it's going to be ready by the time turkey season gets here, or even for that springtime bear hunt. If it is, that's what I want to take a serious look at. And I just as soon continue to be shooting at Darton. I support Darton. I support Michigan-based companies. I support family-owned companies. Absolutely. But if not the Darton, I'm looking at a Raven and I'm looking at a 10-point. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those. You know, people say, you're taking the easy way out. Well, okay, whatever. If any hunter can make it easier to be proficient with the tool they're using, why not? If that means it's easier, okay. It's still a one-shot tool. You still have to get close. You're putting a broadhead on an arrow through an animal at a relatively close range. And I don't think my range with a crossbow is any farther, any longer than it was with a compound. So it is what it is. The ZR2 is done now. My Garber Chevrolet ZR2. I picked it up from Garber Chevy. It looked great just off the lot. Looked great, but I took it down to Sign Image in Saginaw, had them put the wrap on it, put my logos on it. Went over to Suspension Max in Bay City. They put the leveling kit in the front end, brought it up a little bit, which allowed room for those 35-inch tires. I went to Mike's Tire Sales in Caucallon. and he set me up with a set of 35-inch tires. So she's ready to rock. She's good to go. And man, does it look nice. And it was really nice when we had all that snow. What else? Oh, I'm feeling a little bit old this week, a little bit older than normal. I got a Facebook message from a guy the other day. He says, "Hey, Mike, I don't know if you remember me." He gave me his name, and I did remember his name immediately. He said, "I was a student of yours at Delta College. Years ago, I used to teach part-time at a local community college in this area, Delta College, and I taught broadcasting classes. So it was nice to catch up with him." But he said, I was clicking on his profile, as all of us online creepers do, and it said he was retired. Now, when a guy you taught in college has now retired, it does make you feel a little bit old. Doesn't mean I'm going to retire. At least I don't have any plans to. Not anytime soon. That's for sure. Our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction is moving along nicely. Tickets are on sale now. I don't know, to be honest with you, by the time you hear this show, if we will have any left. That's how fast they're selling. It's Saturday, March 4th at the Great Hall in Midland. If you're interested in joining us, I would love to have you be there. If you go to my Facebook page, there's a post with a poster or a flyer on there that gives the phone number to call, 989-662-4891. But don't call it now. If you're listening to the radio show, call it during the week when there's somebody in the office. Or you can just scan the QR code on that online post, and you can get tickets there. We will sell out. If you think you're interested, do not drag your feet. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner is catering the event. I am kind of the host and the MC, actually the auctioneer too. And listen, that's worth the price of entry right there, to watch me do some live auction. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. It actually is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Some great auction items, some great online raffle, silent auction. In fact, you don't have to be there to be in on our silent auction, but our live auction items include an African safari, a bow hunt in Ohio with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters, 2 different bear hunts, one from Gary Morgan, one from Johnny Bowler, a Lake Michigan salmon fishing trip. I'm doing this off the top of my head, so if I forget somebody, I apologize. A Lake Michigan salmon fishing trip with Paul Schlafly of Riverside Charters, a Detroit River walleye trip with Captain Mark Pananzak, a Saginaw Bay walleye trip with Captain Jeff Godey, a nighttime predator hunt with Matt Schock, a lot of guns, a walleye fishing trip on Saginaw Bay with me, a Saginaw River cruise with me and my wife Denise on the Angler Quest. So it's a lot of fun. I hope you can join us. Check out my Facebook page for details on how to do that. Don't forget about the Wednesday night lives. Every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, I go live on my social media outlets, all of them except for Instagram. Wednesday night, the 15th, Amy Trotter, the executive director of MUCC, will be joining us. I'm sure she will talk about the latest on the consent decree debacle, my word, not hers, fiasco, my word, not hers. I bet she will talk about the governor's State of the State address, where she did not mention conservation or wildlife issues, but she did talk about gun control. I'm sure Amy will talk about that as well. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Do not hesitate to reach out. Send me an email, your questions, your comments, your criticisms, your questions for the Ask Avery segment, an interesting one coming up at the end of hour number 2. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Gary Morgan of Wild Game Dynasty, who is one of the guys who offered up a bear hunting trip. We'll talk about bobcat hunting. Then Michigan's meteorologist, Mark Torregrossa, will let us know how long winter is going to last. We'll talk about spearing and master anglers in hour number 2, and Mark Martin and Dixie Dave in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. All right, my friends. Back to Florida. Yeah, Tom Brady retired again. Jeff, why don't you just retire and move to Florida? I know you're working on it. All right, my friends, have a great day. Try to stay warm. I hope you can join me tonight, 7 o'clock, for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.